Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Google Advanced Livestream sessions, where today's episode will focus on display and Gmail ads. If you tune into any of the previous sessions, you might remember me. If not, then no worries, I'll just introduce myself again. So my name is Svevo. I'm an account manager working for the Dutch market here at Google in Dublin. And with me here today are Anjali and Julian, display specialists. Would you mind maybe introducing yourself?
Yeah, sure.
Shortly?
Hi, I'm Anjali. I work with the Northern European market as a display specialist, mainly focused with working with Sweden and Denmark.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julian. I'm a display specialist as well, and I'm mainly working on the Netherlands. And both of us are actually working with the largest advertisers in Northern Europe, trying to achieve their marketing goals in regards to display.
Cool, thank you. So I guess actually that most of the people who are dialing in today had a nice long weekend because of a bank holiday in most of Northern Europe yesterday. But actually here in Dublin, we were at work. So how was the start of your week, I would say?
It was good.
It was good. We've been working on this presentation for quite a bit.
Yeah, Julian has been trying to move from being a display specialist to an animation specialist. That is the slides.
Oh, I'm really curious what we're going to see on these slides. This is going to be good.
Well, if you look at the first slide, you already see the dots moving.
Exactly. All right, so maybe a little bit of introduction before we go ahead. So this is the last actually out of 7 episodes that we're hosting over a period of over the last 14 weeks. And today is going to be about display and Gmail ads. So what we're trying to do in these sessions is to go in depth on the latest of Google Ads products, covering all the products across all levels of the marketing funnel. We want to make this session as interactive as a live stream can possibly be. So what we're going to do is we've set aside 30 minutes for a presentation from you two, and then 20 minutes of questions from you in the audience. So if you already submitted your questions via the form that we sent out earlier, that's totally fine. If you did not, no worries. You can also still submit your questions now, actually using the YouTube interface. It should be on this side. So go ahead and ask your questions there. Please do refrain from asking sensitive questions about your business, because everyone who's going to be dialing in will see those questions. So if you do have any of those kind of questions, then please reach out to your Google point of contact and they'll be happy to help you. We got a lot to cover in a short time as well today. So what we're going to do is we're going to send the slides over afterwards, so you have time to go through them once more. And if you're not watching the live session right now, please be aware that the Q&A part will not be in the recording. I think that's actually all the practical information from my side, which means that we can dive straight into how to get the most out of display. So over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Seva. So maybe first a little bit about the agenda, or what we actually want to talk to you about is that we actually want you to get the right message across to your customers and make sure that they get as familiar as possible with your business, so they end up actually purchasing your products or services. So first of all, we're going to give you a quick introduction as to actually why display is so important for your business. Then we want to highlight how important it actually is to have the right message for your consumers. Then we want to give you some practical examples of how you can actually achieve creative excellence. And then also next to that is, of course, we want to teach you a little bit about the audiences and like how you can mix and match that as well with the creative message that you have in mind for your company. And then last of all, we want to talk about a little bit more about bidding strategies and a little bit about Gmail ads and the future of that as well. And then we'll end with a Q&A. So as we've already mentioned, please ask your questions early so we can populate it in front of us and make sure that we answer it at the end of the session. So first of all, your potential customers are no longer following a linear path to conversion. So it means that they're actually consulting up to 10 sources every time that they purchase something, big or small. On average, it's 10 sources that people actually use in order to consult before they purchase. And then also they do this by switching between devices and platforms. So it's tremendously important that in this day and age where consumers are getting so many interactions from different advertisers, that you have the right message for the for those consumers, and as well make sure that the message is captivating, so you ensure that you're getting the conversion and not your competitor. So the Google display actually offers many moments to connect with your customers. So we're just going to highlight a couple of placements, or inventory as we call it, where you can actually talk and show your creative message to those consumers. So we have properties at Google that you can actually use in order to talk to your customer and make sure that that story resonates as well. We have Gmail, we have YouTube, and over both of these platforms actually have over a billion users that you can interact with. So if you're an expert client, it's a perfect way of expanding your reach. Then as well, we're not only offering our own inventory, our own placements, but we also partnering with a lot of publishers where we're showing a different type of ads where you can actually buy. And we have over 3 million websites and apps that are connected to our service and our ad exchange, as we call it. And then there are also some third-party ad exchanges that you're able to kind of make sure that the message comes across. Please do note that this only works for remarketing. So with remarketing, we have the greatest reach that you can actually have in any of the ad exchanges. So do take that into consideration when you're trying to reach the people that have already visited your products or your website, and make sure that you have the largest reach. This is something definitely to take into consideration. And then 75%, some of you might wonder what this actually means. It already gives it a little bit away in the headline. So it's like, we want people to focus more on the creative quality, which actually delivers the true impact. So actually, if we're looking, and these are not studies actually done by Google, so it is more of an external study that has been conducted, we see that 75% of the advertising impact is actually determined by creative quality. So a good campaign stands or falls with actually the creative message that you're bringing towards a client. So if you know this, then most of us actually think more of ads, and when we're creating display ads, as an afterthought. Mm-hmm. So we're focusing more on the bidding, more on the account structure, the conversions. At the last moment, we start to think, okay, what kind of creatives do we use? Actually, this should we should even turn this around. We should first start with the creative. What is the message that our customers actually want to hear and listen to before we actually go into the more specifics of the campaign settings? And this is really something that we want to hammer home, and this is hopefully also that we're going to help you with throughout this presentation.
Would you recommend that we create the creative just once, or should we change the creative after a certain period of time?
That's a good question, and actually there are two answers to it. Yeah, if you have a standard kind of banner ad, we definitely recommend to refresh it a couple of times. We typically recommend to change it like 3 to 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. We understand that it's a bit of a strain on your resources as a company. So this is just merely like a benchmark that we're providing. But it's definitely something to keep in mind that if you're showing the same ad over and over again to the same consumer, something appears that we actually call ad fatigue. Yeah. Which actually means that people just get blind for your ads and they don't see your message again. So it's really important that you actually change your creative message from time to time to keep telling the story about your business. Okay. And then the second one is that we can now do it semi-automatic, and this is something that we're going to be covering in a couple of slides from now. Mm-hmm. So we're starting to talk already about what consumers expect, and what they expect is actually the right message for them in their mindset and where they are at that moment in time. So it doesn't make sense to think inside out as a company. Is like, what do we want? What do we think people want to hear? No, we should really think about what are the people looking for. And we have beautiful tools like Google Analytics to actually find out what are people searching for before they come to our website. These are type of inputs that you can use for your creative message to make sure that it resonates as well. And this is something that we want to introduce, which helps with your creative messaging towards your clients or towards your consumers. So it's the responsive formats. There are two components to a responsive format. One is assets and the other one is ad formats. Essentially, what this will help to do is to make sure that the creative message will come towards your customers in the best way possible. So an asset is merely headline and text. It could be an image. It could be a logo. So if you have all of these assets together, we will kind of mix and match which assets fits the best for the customer that you're trying to reach. Mm-hmm. And the ad format is more of the template where the ad assets go into and make sure that it runs across all of the different publishers that we already took you through a couple of slides before. And this is really the future where we're thinking of, at Google, where we're heading towards, so we can make sure that the right creative message comes towards the clients and that you actually see the best performance when you're actually going live with a campaign within Google Display. Then why should you actually use asset-based ads? Well, that's a good question. First and foremost, it's the simplicity. So it's really easy to set it up. You can use our interface to actually scan for images. So you can look at your own LinkedIn profile, your Facebook, Instagram page, and actually take all of these creative assets for your advertisement. Mm-hmm. And you can even use stock photos that we have available in the interface as well. So it becomes really easy to actually create a banner. There's no need anymore to just go to a designer, wait for 3 weeks before you actually get your banner. So it's really simple. It means that you have the control over your creative message. You exactly can see which asset is working best and which one is working worst. So you have the control over what message goes out to your client and actually control that the right message goes out to your customers. And then, of course, what we see is that if a template is more dynamic, we see that it yields better performance because we can show different assets based on what we know of the user. So maybe we should show a standardized banner to the user, or maybe we should actually go for a native ad. Based on all the information that we have on the users, we actually know which kind of message resonates better with certain types of consumers. And if you were to have a standard static banner, you couldn't dynamically populate the banner with different types of information based on what we know of the end consumer. So that's why it also drives insanely better performance. I think it's up to 30% that you can actually see in terms of improvement when we're actually comparing that to static ads.
Can we then compare these assets among each other?
Yes, definitely. You can check. You can actually compare the assets amongst each other, and there's actually something called asset reporting.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go through it a couple of slides later, but essentially what it shows you is that which assets are performing well, which assets are performing lesser, and then you can actually take out the lesser and replace it with something that might work better. So incrementally you get a better creative message. But maybe it's a little bit abstract. We're actually going to take you through it in a couple of slides from now. So just to give you a sense of how this assets-based creatives would work, is that you see on your, hopefully is on your left-hand side, it has the title, your building blocks, but essentially what it says is the marketing image, is logos. We have the headlines that we also use in search, and also the same description that we use in search. All of these are considered for our algorithms to be at building blocks, and we're going to mix and match all of these together in a prediction model. So in the backend, we're going to create all of these different combinations in terms of assets, and then based on what we know of the user and what we have in our system on those users, will show actually one ad versus another. And then a couple of things that we're looking at is, for example, demographics, but also location. What is the history of that user? Like, did they click on a text ad? Did they click on a native ad? And this is all something that goes into the prediction model. And there are many, many other factors that go in, but just to give you a quick sense of what we're considering before we're actually showing an ad to a user. So then we already have a great introduction in terms of creatives, how we have to match our storyline with the message that goes out to the customers. But how do we actually achieve it practically? So this is hopefully that we were able to show you. So this is the interface of Google Ads at the moment. And what you see here is that on the left-hand side, and it's already highlighted, you can fill in your website. Mm-hmm. So we're able to scan and pull all the images that you have on your website, and that is already populated there as well. And then you can make sure that you pick only those creative assets, images, and logos that you actually want to show. Typically, there is a maximum of 15 images that you can add there, and there's also a maximum of 2 logos that you can add there. But what we recommend is to fill up as many creative slots or asset slots that you have available to you, because that will just yield you the best performance. And something that we actually introduced a couple of months back is that you can now also take a YouTube video and put them in the creative. So it just gives, it helps a little bit with the ad fatigue that we mentioned earlier. It will just give a different sense to the banner every time that the customer sees it, and make sure that they're familiar with your brand. And if you show the same message over and over, people will ignore it. They will become blind to it. But if you have all these different assets and videos, it will be a captivating message that you send out there, and people will start interacting with your brand more and more. Then here you see that something that that I see as a display specialist that is overlooked quite a bit is that we have the opportunity to actually fill in 5 headlines that go into the responsive ads. We have 5 descriptions as well that would be in the interface below with the highlighted part. But that we see that customers, our advertisers, are actually using maybe 1 headline and maybe 1 description, which doesn't really help us in order to show the best creative message possible for the end consumer. So something that really will help you is to actually make sure that you have 5 headlines, 5 descriptions, so we can make the best combinations possible. And how do you actually know if you reach creative excellence? Is when you see on top here where it's highlighted, where you see excellent, because this means you have filled in all your images, all your headlines, and all the descriptions. And this will just yield a much better performance than if you were to just fill it in a little bit.
I would also like to add that creating so many assets and testing out multiple headlines and description lines also help you understand your audience better. So because you can see the report and you can see which assets are performing better than the other, you can actually make out what your audience is looking at and what they are actually clicking on. So you can use these insights to build even better creatives the next time or on other platforms.
Exactly. And maybe for the long time people that have been working with display is actually that nowadays that if you change a headline or an asset, we don't reset the history of the creative. We'll just keep all the learnings and we'll just put in a new input. So the assets will be new and we put that in the prediction model, but you shouldn't see a big shock in terms of performance of your campaign or of your creative. This is something that back in the days, 3 years ago, when I started, every time you uploaded a new creative, your campaign actually would be resetted to null and you had to start all over again. This is not the case anymore. So feel free to swap as many assets as possible and see what actually yields the best results. And this is also actually the asset report that Anjali just mentioned earlier, is that you're actually able to see here the assets. So here on top, you see, for example, which is highlighted the descriptions. and it shows you which one is performing best and which performing the lowest. What we typically would recommend is to take a new description for the one that is performing the poorest, put a new one in there and see if that helps with performance, and then have a look at, after a week, maybe 2 weeks, you can have a look at this again and see if that is actually performing better now. Maybe another asset is now, because of the combination, performing poor, and this is actually starts to become a way of optimizing your creative message over and over, and at some point you will have the best creative message out there for your brand. And then maybe you can also use those creative messages for search, but also for YouTube, because you now know what your consumers actually want to hear. It's a great way of getting to know what your creative message is. Then I think it's really important to have the right creative, but then second of all, we also want to make sure that we're showing it to the right audience, to your consumers, because otherwise it will still not be able for those consumers to actually resonate with your creative message. So how do we actually identify and reach the right audience? Because different consumers in different moments of the day and life stages actually have different needs and wants, and it becomes really important to have the right message for all of these people to make sure that they are going to start interacting with your brands. Actually, there are two ways of finding your customers. So on the left-hand side, we can do an automated audience targeting. So essentially using the best of Google's machine learning to figure out what the end consumer looks like for your business based on everything that is already there in your account or in your website. We will just figure out who is the consumer, and then it will be automated for you, and then you don't have to fill anything in for your campaign. And then secondly, we also still have, of course, if you have a better understanding of who your customers are for certain products, then you can always go about it in the most manual way, where we still have all the different audiences that you can leverage for your campaigns. But again, here we have the awareness, consideration, and actually driving sales. We won't go through all of the different audiences right now, but it's important that in all of these stages that you again have the creative message that resonates the most with the people in these stages where they are in. So for example, if you're thinking about consideration, you could potentially think about the creative message that shows people more about, hey, learn more about my business, instead of maybe, hey, shop here. So you have a little bit more of a story flowing with that end consumer. You say, listen, come to my website, learn more about my brand. And then once that user has been to your website, you can actually go to the next stage, use it for remarketing maybe, and tell the story again. Say, listen, now that you've learned a little bit more about my brand and what I actually have to offer, please come back and shop what I have to offer. So make sure that you mix and match those, because if people are not in the right moment in time and seeing different call to actions, that might not resonate with these people because they're not there yet. Then I think the third component that comes to a great display campaign is actually that you have to make sure that you're match the bidding strategies with the outcomes that you're hoping to get out of the display campaign. So just a real quick about what bidding strategies actually are for the people that are not as familiar with it. With Google, we have different ways of actually bidding for the same impression or for the same advertisement slot on a website, and it all boils down to what is actually the objective that you have for your campaign. So is it getting more brand awareness? Is it to get more sales? Or is it actually to have people engage more with your website? All of these different actions will result into different bidding strategies, because we then have a better understanding at Google what those people actually are, who those people are, and how we can reach them in the most efficient way for your brand. And something that we're taking into consideration is, for example, user characteristics, user behaviors, but we're also taking contextual signals for display into account, and also the ad characteristics. So the assets that we talked to you before, we look at what has the highest probability of actually making sure that that person does what you wanted to do afterwards. And this is a big number, but we actually analyze over 70 million combinations of these signals within 100 milliseconds when calculating the bid. So before we actually bring out that bid for that user and make sure that you're showing your ad there, we have already analyzed 70 million combinations of what we have on that user from your website, from your creative, and from the user to make sure that we're actually showing them the right ad in the right moment in time. So that is just a real quick snapshot of what bidding strategies are and what we're looking at. Then I want to take you to how do we actually select the right bid strategy. So when we're looking at on the left-hand side, we start off with, hey, are we actually tracking conversions? If that answer is no, then we recommend you to actually use enhanced CPC. Mm-hmm. So that will help us to have just a bit of a better understanding of the consumer, because we know typically what kind of vertical your business is in. So we can help you, instead of just manual CPC, where you bid the same price over and over for the same user, we're actually helping with a little bit of the industry benchmarks to kind of figure out who are those people that we're trying to get to your websites. If you're actually tracking conversions, then the next question becomes, do you use a third-party bidding solution? If that answer is yes, then also think of using enhanced CPC, because most of the third-party bidding solutions are not compatible with display bid strategies, mm-hmm. but eCPC can be well used in this case. If you're saying, okay, that's all fine and well, I'm not using a third-party bidder, then you ask yourself the question, is the primary goal to actually spend the budget or to achieve return on investment? If it's spend the budget, then we have something that actually was launched not that long ago, but it's called Maximize Conversions for the people that are actually working with shirts. It's already a little bit more of a common phenomenon as a bid strategy. For display, it's relatively new, but essentially it does exactly what it says it will do. It will try to maximize the amount of conversions within the budget, overlooking the CPA that you're trying to achieve. So it really helps you to drive more conversions. But if you want to have a little bit better control over your ROI or your CPA, then we're actually thinking maybe of a different bidding strategy. Then we're thinking, okay, will my campaign actually yield more than 30 conversions per month? If the question is no, then we again recommend you to go to maximize conversions until we have those 30 conversions, and then you can go back to the flow chart and see where do I stand now. If the answer to that question is yes, we will get more than 30 conversions per month, then you have to figure out a CPA or a ROAS goal. Most companies will have a good understanding of what they're actually willing to pay for a conversion or what the return on ad spend has to be. In that case, we have one more question, is that, do you pass the conversion values through the tag? So on your website, are you giving that information back to Google Ads? If the answer is yes, then please use target ROAS, because that will maximize the efficiency between the people that we're trying to reach and actually the return on ad spend. And this will be the best bidding strategy for you if that is what you're looking for. But if you're not doing that, then you can actually better go to Target CPA, where we're actually optimizing for that conversion for a particular price. And then something that is worthwhile testing out, if you have more than 30 conversions and you have a clear idea of what that cost per action has to be, you can actually use pay-per-conversion, which actually means that you're not paying for the clicks, you're not paying for the impressions, but you're only paying when those conversions actually happen on your website. And I think this is a really, really good way of actually testing display campaigns and to actually showcase the performance.
Super.
Then I think I'm going to hand over the floor to my colleague Anjali.
We talked about bidding and we talked about multiple objectives of bidding and how they can be different. We bring to you a new way of now setting conversions. So you can now set conversions at a campaign level, which means that you can now optimize towards different types of objectives for different campaigns in the same account. How this helps is sometimes you want to optimize for reach, and then other times you want to optimize for purchases. Earlier, we were not flexible with allowing you to choose between reach or purchases in the same account, and you might have had to create multiple accounts for doing these things. But now it is possible that you set different conversions in the same account and choose which campaign you want to use for for which kind of conversions. So for example, if you want to use maximized conversions, but in this case, you want to optimize for reach, I can use visits to website as my conversion for that campaign and optimize towards visit to website. Versus if I want to use pay for conversions and pay only for purchases, I can use a purchase as a conversion. I can also use a combination of these two if I want to optimize for, say, reach and conversion, but also maintain like a standard return on ad spend. I can put a conversion value to visits to product page, which would be lower, and then put a higher conversion value to purchase and set a target, which is a combination of both and optimize for both. So you can choose the conversion actions that a campaign will report in the conversions column and use for optimization in smart bidding. You can share conversion actions across a group of campaigns intended to drive the same action for easier reporting, for easier optimization. You can test specific conversion actions without disrupting other campaigns in the same account and overriding account level biddability setting. You'll find these settings in your campaign settings if you go to advanced, and you'll be able to choose this there. So it provides you greater control because you can now do multiple things in the same account. It provides you flexible testing because you can test multiple scenarios for the same campaign, same objective, and also improved account management because it reduces the number of accounts that you're managing at the same time. So I encourage you to test this if this has been one of the hindrances for you to test out display campaigns with different objectives. And then we talked about the whole suite of automation products. I'd also like to conclude this set of slides with what does an ideal account look like for display. So this is a sample account structure that we created if you want to go full funnel. I'd start ideally with remarketing because these are the users that I've already invested on. They've already been to my website. So I want these users to come back again and make the final purchase. This is like a small nudge to our users who already know us, who've already explored us. We just want them to come back and finish through their purchase. Now, if I am already doing remarketing, I'd like to go a little bit more upper funnel because we want to boost our remarketing lists and the audience that visits the website. So the next set of users should ideally be coming from smart display campaigns where we go prospecting. We learn from the kind of users that are visiting your website, but we also try to explore and find new users and drive them to purchase. If you're doing both of this, so first one is the users you already know. The second one is the users that we find for you. And the third one is the users that you think should be your audience, but you've not been reaching them yet. So you can give us inputs, and we can create, for example, custom intent audiences for you, which is a little bit manual, but also automated in a sense that you give us some cues and we build an audience segment for you. You can use similar audiences on the basis of your existing audiences, or custom affinity, which is similar to custom intent, but a little more upper funnel. And another way of expanding your reach is targeting content. So till now, we were talking all about audiences, but you can also target specific content, such as my business is all about, for example, fashion. So I want to target the fashion blogs. I use those keywords, and my ads show next to that content. I can also target topics which talk about fashion, and then will be alongside those kind of blogs or those kind of YouTube videos, for example. And the last one is discovery ads. It's very new. I will talk about it in detail in the following slides. This is more about tapping into the Google owned and operated property. So far, you might be familiar with Gmail, but we have extended this, and we bring a whole suite of one campaign which goes across Google's owned and operated properties. And you'll be able to target, again, by audiences or by content in this inventory as well. Now, how do you go full funnel in terms of ad formats is most of what Julian talked about before. So you can target the remarketing, smart display, audiences, and content using the responsive ads. They cover 100% of the inventory. They can auto-optimize themselves to be shown on the tablet, on desktop, and on phone. And for discovery ads, we have this new ad format, which is called discovery ads itself, which is very similar to responsive ads. It also relies on assets, but it's different assets because we are optimizing for Gmail inventory, which is a little bit different from the rest of the inventory. So this is what an ideal account structure looks like.
And what is the reason that we're actually not putting everything in one campaign? Why are we splitting remarketing in a separate campaign, smart display, and all of the other audiences and content?
All of this is different stages in the funnel. So for example, remarketing super low in the funnel, you want to have very aggressive targets for remarketing, while at the same time, your audiences is something that you're still exploring. They're not yet there. So you might want to spend a little bit more on that audiences. So it's a little bit more upper funnel. So one reason is that you want to keep your budgets and performance in check. And the other reason could be that because these are different sets of audiences, I want to keep that data consolidated so I can learn maximum from that data and optimize towards that and use those insights for expanding or for contracting on the basis of how my goals are aligning with the current performance.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, and this is also exactly what we see here at Google, is that if you consolidate it per stage of the funnel, we actually see greater performance for those campaigns that are targeting the same users where they are at that same moment. It also includes the creative message again, of course, but we're able to learn from it and then make sure that we have greater efficiencies there than whether if you were putting it in the same campaign, all of those learnings across the whole funnel will have to be shared. And we don't exactly, even how clever our smart bidding and machine learning is, we wouldn't exactly know when to show what ad to what user all the time. It will just take much more time and data than if you were to split it in separate campaigns.
That's true. Let's zoom in a little bit on smart display and discovery ads. So remarketing is pretty straightforward. You're targeting the users who've been to the website, and audiences and content is more very specific to your business. So you want to customize it as per your requirements to go broad or to go narrow. But smart display campaigns and discovery ads is something that everyone can utilize. It uses the greatest and best of Google's automation and machine learning. So we'd go a little bit more deeper into how you can utilize the smart display campaigns and discovery ads. Let's start with smart display campaigns. I'm sure you must have heard about it a lot of times, but again, speaking about what smart display campaigns are, this is just an automated way of using the best of machine learning. They are they help you drive 20% more conversions. The main components are automatic targeting, which means that it's streamlined audience management to help you reach people at all stages of buying journey. You drive performance on the network by using the power of Google's automation. We understand what you want to target on the basis of the cues that you provide as your assets and headlines and description lines, and also learn from what kind of audience is clicking to be on your website. We use automatic creatives. So Julian already talked about it a lot, so I'd keep it short. It's again, you just provide us the building blocks and we test multiple combinations for you to bring the best. And smart bidding, which is again, Julian already talked about. You can streamline how you manage and bid on your products and services to help you achieve your business goals faster, drive performance on GDN, and the power of Google's machine learning. This is how your smart bidding smart display campaign ads look like on multiple platforms. Quickly touching on discovery campaigns, we are short on time. We want to take your questions afterwards, so we'll send you slides later. Discovery campaigns, very briefly, are extended a version of Gmail ads, which is Google's premium inventory. Discovery campaigns is one ad for multiple Google properties. Your ad would be very much similar to an automated ad in a smart display campaign. It inspires customers with an open canvas, showcasing your brand or products in different formats, which can be carousel, it can render natively across properties, etc. It delivers amazing results because we understand the where you are serving. It's a 100% signed-in inventory because you are using Gmail, you're using YouTube. We know a lot about these users, and you can be confident you're anticipating what your customers want, actually, and you can deliver the results that you care about. And the last part is unmatched reach. So this is what I want you to really take home. Google, discovery campaigns serve across Google's best inventory. We have over 1 billion users signed up on all these three. We are serving your ads across YouTube, which you already know. Gmail, again, you already know. And then we're opening up Discover inventory. This is pretty new. It's yet to come in some of the countries, and it's already launched. You can reach out to your account managers to understand where it has already launched. So Discover inventory is when you go to Google Now and you swipe left, that's your news feed for Google. We show native ads there. It's very streamlined with the kind of news feed that you have. So it's very difficult to, it's not very stark when an ad comes up, and it is very on the basis of your interests. So you are basically discovering these brands when they're serving on those feeds. And quickly jumping into how these ads look like. So on your far left is YouTube ad, in the center is the Google Home ad, and on the right is the Gmail ad. Over to Q&A.
So
Perfect.
maybe just real quick on the discovery campaigns. This was actually introduced in Google Marketing Live a few weeks back. This is something that Google is intending to go big on. It will be a separate campaign type when you're actually in the interface. We will be launching it later this year, but if you're really interested in testing it out already, feel free to reach out to your point of contact at Google to see what we can do and actually make sure that you're one of the earliest ones to actually start testing with the beta. So please do reach out to your Google point of contact and make sure that we have everything there for when this product actually goes to launch.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Anjali and Julian, for walking us through display some of the account best practices and also some of the new formats, features, and inventory that we have. So really cool. Thank you for that. And thank you all very much for tuning in.